Welcome to episode number 3. All right, I myself, Selfless Gaming here. To my left, we have little Jacob as well. Um, this week, we're going to do a quick recap about our fantasy football teams, like overall production, how we did in our week 1 matchups. Then we're also going to talk about some of the week 1 matchups that occurred in the NFL and give you guys some of our thoughts and feedback on it. And then we'll jump into basically our breakdown of our week 2 matchups for fantasy and what we like, what we don't like for our week 2 matchups in the NFL as well. All right, little Jacob, man, get us started, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome, everybody. We're gonna get right into it. I actually had a really good week, fantasy football wise. Won 169 points. The other guy scored about 120 or so. It was a really good game. What really blew it open for me was that Thursday night game, with Dallas and Tampa Bay. Amari Cooper just had like a way bigger game than I could have imagined. 130 yards about receiving, 13 catches, 2 touchdowns. I mean, phenomenal. That alone got me like 39 points. Of course, Kyler Murray had a huge game, 5 touchdowns. I mean, he was just all over the field. That those two guys alone just pretty much set me up for the victory. Had some other good performances too. Um, Trying to think. I think Najee Harris kind of did all right for his first game, but it was enough to get me there. Leonard Fournette didn't do a whole lot during that Tampa Bay game just because Dallas played pretty good defense on the run, and forced him to pass a lot more. Um, Another really good guy that I had going, or actually sadly on the bench, was Gronkowski. I probably should have started him. Someone that I'm probably gonna start over Kyler Pitts next week, just because I kind of feel like I'll be better off with the production. Kyler Pitts really didn't have the kind of production I was hoping for, fantasy wise. I'm trying to pull up here real quick the previous week. Um, okay, here we go. Week 1. Yeah, another really good player, T. Higgins, Cincinnati, got me some good points there.
Yes,
15 points.
sir.
Really happy about that. And then of course, they got the nice icing on the cake with Tyreek Hill. Had a big game.
Oh yeah.
11 catches, 197 yards. I mean, that was another 38 points. So all in all, a good week for me. I'm just going over this stuff here. It looks like the only thing I probably could have did better, just to kind of add insult to injury, though, would have been having Gronk, who got 29 points. Um, but yeah, I had a good matchup, man. I don't think there's much that I'm gonna change for the second matchup here. It looks like I'm projected to win this one as well by at least 6 points, which it might end up being more. Trying to see who the matchup is. Actually, I have uh going up against Patrick Mahomes, Gibson from New York, Mitchell Lawrence. So a couple of good players. It doesn't really, to me, honestly, like he has players that are gonna do better than ones that I have performing, especially with the lineup I have. The only difference is I'll probably put in Gronk instead of Pitts this time to see, the better outcome with that. Because unfortunately the Falcons are still the Falcons, and they're gonna be playing Tampa Bay. So I don't see that going well for them at all. So yeah, I mean, we're looking to get week 2 underway. I'm returning champion for my league, so I'm hoping to go back to back. That would be ideal. Really exciting if I could do that, man. So yeah, how'd your fantasy game go? How did that play out?
Well, I think I may have slowly joined the social media trend for Zeke after Thursday night's performance. Luckily for me, though, I'm a very realistic person. I don't expect everybody to
Yeah.
drop 20, 30 points each week.
Yeah.
Plus, the Bucks had the best run defense last year in the league, and they have everybody returning back. So, it was already going to be a tough sledding game, anyways. But to kind of sum it up, Ezekiel Elliott was my worst performer. And he's definitely top 5 running back. He still is a top 5 running back. And people who
Yeah.
say he's not, y'all need to stop eating paint chips and you need to be drug tested because you guys are high as hell. Just to be blunt, all right. Um, but he kind of started off the week for me. It's very slow progression. The guy I was facing had Antonio Brown that Thursday night as well, and Antonio Brown popped off, so I was kind of worried. But all in all, I had the Steelers' defense. Their defense stepped up really big with 20 points. They had a fumble recovery for a touchdown. had a couple sacks, which was huge. They had 3 sacks, four forced fumbles, one fumble recovery, and one
Damn.
touchdown. Then I had Daryl Henderson. He kind of popped off for me there, like more towards the second half. Um, then I had Jalen Waddle, which I said was going to be a sleeper this year. I said like Miami's offense overall, I thought they were going to be kind of a sleeper, but he popped off and he had a pretty good game. Tyler Higbee did well for me. He's probably honestly top 10 tight end this year, but overall he got
Yeah.
me 9.3 points. I had T Higgins. I told y'all as my like person in the first episode. He was definitely a sleeper with Joe Burrow being back and the addition of Jamar Chase. I don't know how many of you guys caught the Bengals game, but their offense looks extremely potent this year.
Yeah.
It's very obvious when Joe Burrow went out. They were not the same.
Oh yeah.
So T Higgins did well. And then Keenan Allen's always a good performer for fantasy football. He's been very consistent when he's healthy. I actually had Melvin Gordon. I started this week against the Giants. A lot of people
Okay.
were not like were actually kind of surprised in my league that I had Melvin Gordon going. Started off really slow, but then he popped off in the second half. Ended up with 101 yards and a touchdown. And then to kind of just take my foot and like put it on my opponent's throat, so to speak, I had Patrick Mahomes as my quarterback.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
as anybody that saw the Cleveland game, which I also said in our second episode, it would not surprise me if Cleveland went into Kansas City and snuck out of Arrowhead with a win. They were very close of doing so.
Yeah.
So that game was awesome to watch. But Patrick
Oh yeah.
Mahomes, man, just popped off. Like, and it's, I mean, Tyreek Hill he's a beast, bro. Like, dude's insane and everything.
Yeah.
So they got a lot of weapons, but overall, I think I'm very pleased with my team. Looking into week 2 matchup, I think I got a pretty good matchup, like pretty good matchups going forward. The only one I'm kind of concerned with is Jalen Waddle at the moment. I may actually like sub him out for possibly Rondell Moore, um,
Okay.
wide receiver for the Cardinals. I think Rondell Moore might actually see a little bit more upside this week. But as far as like Zeke's performance and stuff, he, everybody's freaking out. Zeke is going to bounce back. It's week 1. Okay, the Chargers defense and their run defense
Yeah.
is not to the caliber of the Bucks. So
No, not even close.
everybody just needs to pump the brakes. Just relax. Okay.
Yeah. It's one game.
I think he's gonna be my bounce back player this week.
Yeah, it's one game out of 17. So I mean, you're gonna have at least a game or two where, contrary to popular belief, running backs are required to do more than just run the football. They're also required to catch the football. And another thing they're required to do, especially at the professional level, is block. And that's something that he had
Yeah.
to do a lot of for obvious reasons in that game. But yeah, it's just how some of the games are gonna go. But they'll definitely get good games out of him. I don't see
Yeah.
any reason why anyone would have a problem with keeping him on the roster and even
And
starting him, especially with against a bad defense a notoriously bad running rushing defense, like the Chargers.
yeah. And honestly, Brad, to your point too, like I think you made a very valid point with his blocking, especially pass protection, because to be honest, if I gotta go between him or Tony Pollard, I definitely want Zeke up there protecting me and not Tony Pollard. Not to say anything against Tony
Oh
Pollard. Tony Pollard is really athletic, but Tony Pollard is not the stout back that Zeke is.
yeah, for
So
sure.
there's reasoning behind week 1 performance, obviously.
Yeah,
So what do you think about the actual like NFL matchups for week 1?
man. A lot of the games, I think a lot of the games ended up going either for depending on whose side you're on, right? What team you're on, either went completely 360 from what you imagine it was going to be. Either went really well or went really horrible. So one of the ones that definitely stands out right to you that I think to everybody was the game that I said was going to go one way and it completely went in the opposite direction, like it completely went south, and that's Green Bay versus New Orleans. I mean,
Yes,
it was 30-38. Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers threw like 2 interceptions, and Jameis Winston threw like 5 touchdowns, and kind of made me put my foot in my mouth about saying how he was going to play. But like I was saying, who before or earlier today, who would have imagined that those two performances would have been flip flop? Like if we had told somebody, hey, Aaron Rodgers is going to throw a single touchdown and Jameis Winston's going to throw five, you get called crazy, and anybody would call you crazy. No one expected that, but that's exactly what happened. They just played terrible. Packers just played absolutely awful. Davis Winston took advantage of all the opportunities he had. He didn't really throw for a lot of yards. It was less than 200, but that just goes back to how well defense that they were playing
Yep.
against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, which I also didn't expect, or I think most people didn't. So that was pretty intense. Um, I know another really good game that came out of there too that we were watching uh Monday night. That was an awesome game. Lamar Jackson,
That was a really good game.
uh, Derek Carr, and Lamar Jackson. He did really well. I mean, he had like more than 200 all-purpose yards, more than 300 all-purpose yards. He threw a touchdown. There was a lot of passes he threw though that just looked off or the timing was off. Um, and he struggled. He fumbled, and I think in the end, the Raiders ended up being able to take advantage at the last minute. And they got that walk-off touchdown from Derek Carr, and he just pretty much balled out a 32-yard touchdown. But that was really a wild game. We had a couple of games like that this past week, and then of course, another high-scoring game when Cowboys lost against that first game Thursday night. But I don't think you can ask for a better opening night game like that. You know, Especially against the Super Bowl champs. I mean, Dak
Oh, that
looked
was a
great. You would
great
think
way to
that,
start the season. That was a great way to start the
yeah,
season.
yeah, dude. And you would think that Dak like never missed a game or a step. I mean, the dude threw for like 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had over 100 passer rating. That was crazy.
Well,
Um,
like his injury that he sustained last year, especially being in a quarterback position where you have to
yeah,
like be able to drive off of your foot and put power
yeah,
and stuff into your throws. Like he looked great, man. Like his mobility
yeah,
wasn't all that great, but like hell, you don't need him to run. If you can keep the
yeah.
guy protected and let him just get the ball out to his playmakers, like that's what you need him to do. And he looked awesome.
Yeah, and it was good to be able to see him take like a hit or two, and that he just gets back up like normal. It's not anything that's like bother him. And that's kind of what I thought. Once he got in there and got shoved around a little bit, that he'd get comfortable again and be fine. So I was glad to see his performance, and it just sucks, he came short because we can't make extra points and easy field goals, unfortunately,
Yeah,
for some odd reason. But yeah, you were talking too about how Antonio Brown kind of just popped off. He got 5 catches, about 121 yards, and then he had that
yeah.
that bomb touchdown for 47 yards,
I think he
where
had
Anthony Brown got burned big time by Antonio
yeah.
Brown.
Let's see. Yeah, he had 121 yards and a touchdown. Yep.
Yeah, he played really well. I mean, he's a great athlete. He's always going to be um uh, a hidden weapon for that team, especially when we were so worried about not locking down Godwin and Mike Evans, who really didn't do much, and somewhat Gronk to some effect that at the beginning of the game, at least before he scored his touchdowns, that Antonio Brown started getting cut loose, and then it's like you start losing track of guys because you're trying to cover the other ones. So he's always going to be a really good weapon for them.
What do you
Um,
think about, like, not to jump too far ahead to week two,
yeah,
but what do you think about the news out of Dallas right now about Demarcus Lawrence? Have you seen that?
yeah, I did actually not too long ago. It really sucks, dude. Like I was hoping it was just like something where he just hurt himself and he'll be all right, but fortunately not. It's saying he broke his foot, so
Yeah.
that's gonna be tough. It means that, which we do have a shot at this, but I don't know how big of a window it is. But what it means is that we really need Randy Gregory more than ever now to play defensive end, and he went on COVID IR. For those who don't know, um, he can potentially return, if I'm correct, if over the next 3 days he passes or rather gets failed COVID test. If he gets negative,
Yeah.
if he gets enough of those
I
for
think
the
he has
next
to
few
have
days,
2 negative tests within like
mm,
2 or 3 days of each other.
yeah, exactly. He'll be able to play, which is like something we desperately need right now. Um, Another thing too, we got Zach Martin back, but then I don't know what Lyle Collins is doing, dude. I don't know if he's just like reefer madness or what, but he got suspended for 5 games for the substance abuse policy with the NFL. I'm not sure exactly what it is. I don't think it's anything like PEDs or anything. I think it's he got caught smoking or something. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't looked into it, but that's tough. There's another guy that's going to be starting in front of him. I believe I'm trying to remember who Jerry said it was going to be. It's going to be a guy named Terrence Steele. I don't know a whole lot about him. I know he didn't play too good at the beginning of the season last season, but then he got better as the year ended, and they feel pretty confident about putting him in there.
Okay.
So I think if they're confident with having Zach Martin play his usual spot and putting him in there instead of the other guy who played for Zach Martin this past Thursday, McGowan, I think, then I think that'll be all right if they have that much confidence in him to pass, to block, and everything.
Yeah.
Especially against this defense, where Joey Bosa is probably going to be the biggest like issue or the guy to watch out for on that line.
So, well, like one of the games I was actually really impressed with, which I picked for like my like Money in the Bank game, was the Minnesota
Yeah,
game versus the Bengals. I already knew the Bengals were going to have a lot of offensive weapons and a lot of offensive firepower
yeah,
based off what they had returning and with Joey Burrow coming back, old Joey.
mm-hmm,
I was extremely impressed with their defense at times though, because their defense for majority of the game shut down Dalvin Cook. And
yeah,
Adam Thielen had a pretty good game overall, but Justin Jefferson, he kind of struggled to really get going. I
yeah,
do think though that with Irv Smith, their tight end that was projected to have a really good year, going out on IR a week before the
mm-hmm,
season started, and then now he's like done for the season. I ended up dropping him off my fantasy team. I think that kind of limited their pass catching opportunities. Um,
yeah,
but I was really impressed with the Bengals defense. Not to say like, I mean, they still gave up 24 points, and the game ended up going into overtime. But a year ago, 2 years ago, Bengals in that situation, they're not even in overtime. You know, they found a way to lose in regulation. So I was really
yeah,
surprised to see that, especially kind of as a local team where I'm at, them actually like get that out and get that win. That was really important. Um, Another game, man, that just blew my mind was the 49ers game. Those
mm-hmm,
guys were beating the brakes off of the Lions. I thought the police were going to get called because the Lions were getting assaulted. And then next thing I know, they're within like a score of the game. And I'm just
yeah,
like, what the hell is happening right now? And I couldn't tune into the game because I didn't have it. I don't have NFL Sunday ticket.
yeah,
I was trying to like figure out what was going on. But man, that defense just all of a sudden started falling apart. And their
mm-hmm,
offense looked really good. They did lose Raheem Mossert, which I did say I kind of had high hopes for this year. I thought he was going to be a really good running back for you guys to snag and get early, but
yeah.
he actually is done for the year now. Tore his knee up, so that's another one that's gone.
Yeah.
So far, if you guys listened to the first episode and you were drafting your fantasy football teams and you took any of my advice, the only thing I can say is at least I'm consistent. Everybody I've kind of said has had a knee injury, so that's about the only thing I can say there. Um,
Uh, that's all right, man. It comes with fantasy football and football in general. Guys are just gonna get hurt, and there's no way
yeah,
to predict who or where or when or what. So it
and
happens.
another thing I'll point out, man. Like I kind of expected the Steelers game to be the way it was, like kind of grinded out, back and forth. Didn't really expect it to be high scoring. I was very surprised at the Eagles Falcons game, how bad the Falcons looked and how actually
Yeah.
like kind of good the Eagles looked. It really kind of made me start to think because I used to defend this guy, Carson Wentz. I put like in our title today, like was Carson the reason Philly was bad?
Mm-hmm.
I always used to think it was kind of their offensive line. They couldn't protect the guy, but he played Sunday for Indianapolis. He did not look very good with
Yeah.
Indianapolis. He struggled quite a bit. Indianapolis really just couldn't seem to get going. I don't know if maybe that's due to him not having a lot of practice time in training camp, or being with the COVID and the foot injury and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He just didn't look good. And Jalen Hurts, he actually looked pretty good. Did very well for his opening the season, starting at quarterback. So I was kind of surprised that that game actually wasn't higher scoring. But then um, going to the Ravens, man, that Monday night game was. I was very surprised, actually. One, I was surprised that they had as much of the lead as they did.
What
And then
is
two, I was also Yorman Goddard. Thanks for the sub, man. I'm streaming live, so if y'all hear that, that's I just got a subscription from my boy Blue. Thanks, Blue. Much love, brother. Um, but with the Ravens, dude, they have 13 players on IR that are all
Yeah, it's
starters.
crazy.
And the fact that they were blowing out the Ravens like they were and controlling that game, and then the Ravens, or not the Ravens, but the Raiders, and the Raiders ended up coming back on them to win like the way they did. It's just kind of crazy, man. And I think when the Raiders started getting traction, started getting things figured out, that's where Marcus Peterson really would have helped that team. Him being kind
Yeah.
of the leader in the secondary, keeping guys calm, that veteran back there, like I think that really started to show its head. Like, man, they don't have that back there right now. Stuff so.
Yeah.
Uh, but I thought overall to start the season, man, week 1 games were pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot of scoring, a lot of back and forth, a lot of unexpected surprises, good surprises, especially if you're a fan of the teams that were dominating.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I agree. I was pretty surprised that the Lions got as close as they did to beating the 49ers. I didn't think that they were going to even be able to get a whiff of a win, and they almost pulled it off. And they were in Detroit, so
yeah.
that probably was a big boost. I just remember seeing, like, I kind of so I was at a place called, I don't know if they have any up north, but it's called Twin Peaks. It's like a sports bar and lounge and
What's it called?
restaurant. Twin Peaks.
Twin
And
Peaks.
it's kind of like a mountain lodge theme, hunting lodge theme, like
I don't
bar
think there's anywhere I'm
restaurant.
at, but I'm sure there is. It like a is it a franchise or no?
Yeah, it's a franchise. I know they
Okay,
have some, like a couple in Texas and probably some other states, but we were there and they have all the games on because, of course, they got NFL Network. And I just remember looking up at that game and I just see like a Lions coach just chewing out someone on defense, Rowdy. And then that all of a
dude.
sudden after
Yeah,
that, they just started playing a lot better, and getting back on it. But no, there's a lot of good games. And I think we're going to be in for some more this week too because there's some good matchups coming up.
yeah. I agree with you. I think week 2 is going to say a lot about teams. Um,
Yeah.
Honestly, like I used to coach, and one of the things we always used to tell our players, one of the things we always used to tell our kids was whether like we won first week or we lost the first week. We always had the same message, and it was like, guys, we should see our biggest improvement from week 1 to week 2, and that goes
Yep.
from like high school level to college level to the pros. Like these teams that are going to be elite, want to compete for playoffs, you should see a major jump from week 1 to week 2. I'm really interested
Absolutely.
in this. Um, do you want to start off with who you think is going to be like your player to rebound the most in week 2 on your
Who's going to
fantasy
rebound the
team?
week
Yeah, like who's
on the
gonna
fantasy team?
yeah who's gonna have their
Um,
bounce back week?
yeah. I mean, honestly, I think Najee Harris is gonna have. I'm not gonna say he didn't do good. He did all right. He did go against a tough run defense,
Yeah,
with Buffalo. But I think against the Raiders, just because they don't have that level of defensive talent on the back of the handle running back his caliber, I think he's gonna bounce back and definitely get me more than just 10 points. I don't even think I can check right now. I don't even think he scored a touchdown. I think he just got some decent yardage, but that was about it.
I think in like
Last
standard
week,
leagues he only had like 5.9 points in standard leagues.
yeah, yeah, that's right, that's right. You're telling right there. Yeah, he only got 45 yards, so I think he's gonna be able to bounce back and have a better week against them. Um, Another player I want to say, I would like to say that I wish I could say Carter Pitts. I don't know if he is just going against the Tampa Bay's defense. They're really good. We didn't get too many plays to our tight ends in general, so I don't think he's going to get out there either. Um, Fournette against the Dallas defense, I knew he wasn't really going to do a whole lot. He only got 32 yards. I think he has a much better shot at making an impact against that defense and the Falcons
I think so
for
too.
sure because they're just not going to stop anybody. It doesn't look like this year. So yeah, I mean those are two guys on there that I'm really thinking that could be bouncing back with Najee Harris and Fournette, two running backs that are going to be starting that I think will give me some more traction and probably just more than likely just help pad a win for this next week. I'm pretty confident that this guy that I'm facing next, his team doesn't really have too many mentionables at all. He's coming off a loss where he lost by at least 20 points. He's probably going to lose again in the second week in a row. Hopefully, all my guys play up to par, and that's going to happen. So, yeah, those are the two players I think that right now are probably going to make the biggest jump from this past week.
For me, I already kind of talked about it earlier. Like, I think Zeke's going to bounce back this week. I think they're going to
Yeah,
really establish and have more of a balance. And the reason I kind of feel that way too is because when it is a bit of a difference, and it's going to be crazy when I say this. I know it's going to be crazy when I say this. It is a bit of a difference when you have Michael Gallup, CeeDee
yeah,
Lamb, Amari Cooper all out there on the field with Zeke in the backfield
yeah,
compared to not having Michael Gallup.
yeah.
Like,
That's another hard loss that we took too.
yeah, and him going out, like that's another weapon that's off. So I kind of feel like they're going to try to balance a lot more. I also feel like too that the Chargers defense doesn't pose as much of an impact on the run like the Bucks
Yeah,
defense did. So therefore, that's going to allow a little bit more of that balance.
yeah,
So I think Zeke's going to bounce back this week, so everybody can stop freaking out, calm down, because I'm seeing all this stuff on TikTok with like the office memes, like, "Can we fire him? No, we can't fire him. You got to have cause. Like, just relax. I know people are doing it to
yeah.
be funny and stuff, but
It's yeah, I mean it's not the best. It's not the best. It's definitely not the best or the greatest thing when you talk about fantasy football, right? Like fantasy football wise, because you don't get points for blocking.
yeah,
But he's still doing what running backs get paid to do when
yeah.
the game plan calls for it. So yeah, believe it or not, guys, running backs have to block too. That's just
Um,
what you have to do.
I also think too that a player that might actually bounce back this week, that struggled a little bit
Hmm.
last week. He's not necessarily on my team, but I think Nick Chubb is actually going to have a very solid game. Kareem Hunt did very well against the Chiefs, but he's also got some familiarity there with where he was
Yeah,
used to be a part of that organization.
yeah,
But Nick Chubb, he had a good game still, but I think Nick Chubb's going to actually have like a really good performance this week for those who are interested. I see him being a breakout player for sure this week.
yeah. He'll get
So,
his for sure.
do you have anybody that you would avoid this week? Is there anybody that like you think off the top of your head where you're like, oh, dude, I'm not putting them in this matchup?
Hmm. Who would I say probably to avoid? Man, I would say that maybe against, and I know this might sound a little crazy, but I would say you might want to avoid putting in Derrick Henry against that Seattle defense. I think they're going to play really
Yeah,
well, and they have a pretty good rush defense. Derrick Henry didn't look terrible, but he didn't look great either. Now that teams are doing more that they can to swarm around the football around him and get like two to three guys to gang tackle him, I don't see the Seahawks do anything different with the guys that they got back there. He had 17 carries in here, 17 carries, 58 yards. Um, he just really wasn't getting anywhere from that defense from him. And I think the Seattle Seahawks have a better defense, so I think that you might be, hurting yourself if you start him if you don't have a better option. Just because I don't think he's going to do much better. Not to say he's not going to have a good season or any big games this year, but I don't think the Seattle defense is the one that he's going to do that against, where he's going to like break out or get out of his slump.
yeah. Um, for me, one person that or actually two guys that I'm kind of worried about this week.
Hmm.
Uh, the first group is kind of a combination. Is Kyle Pitts, like you talked about earlier, and Calvin
Yeah.
Ridley. I think the Bucks defense is really going to lock them down because against the Eagles defense, I'd say that the Eagles defense is bad. They did show some improvement, but it's also that week one where it's like, okay, did this team really improve that much in the offseason, or is Atlanta just that bad? Because I did talk about in episode one that somebody I was like very hesitant to draft this year was Calvin Ridley because Julio
Hmm.
Jones was no longer there and stuff. So I don't really see that offense having a huge productive value again this week.
Yeah.
And another person I would play that's a top five running back that I would be hesitant on. Like, I'm just saying hesitant. You're going to start him because he's top three in the league, like as far as fantasy goes this year.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook. Hey, Dalvin Cook struggled pretty good against the Bengals defense. It took him a while to get going. And the Cardinals defense shut down Derrick Henry. Like
Yeah.
their defense was stout. The defense that Dalvin's going up against compared to the Bengals is going to be much better this week. They clearly can focus and shut down the run and really force Kirk Cousins to throw the football and put pressure on him to try and win the game like the Bengals did. Um, so I don't expect Dalvin Cook to really have like a good week two. I thought he was going to have a breakout week one. It really didn't work out the way I thought. So I don't really see much of a difference there in week two, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. I would also probably say, I don't know. I mean, if anything, I would just say you just got to really think about the week one performances and really look at the matchup that they're having next and who's going to be in front of them. The kind of team that they're facing. But you're right. The Cardinals did a really good job. And I personally think the Seahawks have a better defense overall,
Yeah.
and they're going to probably stack the box. They're probably going to be willing to die by the pass, if anything. So they're not. I don't think they're going to be giving uh Derrick Henry much of anything. I mean, he's a beast, but you know, you can only do so much when they're stacking the box against you, and you have like four or five guys in
Yeah.
your face when you're trying to get through a gap. So
Well,
we'll
and
see what
like
happens.
Tennessee's offense has always started off slow though too. Like every year they always kind of start off slow and then it's like mid-season they find their form, they really start putting it all together, then they make a push to the playoffs. So like I mean it doesn't really surprise me they start off slow, but with the weapons they have on offense, how much they struggled was
Yeah.
very surprising to me.
Yeah. I think another person that, and I don't know, maybe for some reason somebody has this guy. I don't really think anybody would have this quarterback unless he just didn't have someone else to pick up. And I know he had a great game last week, but I wouldn't even think about starting Tyrod Taylor against the Cleveland defense. Like, he had a really good game, but they played Jacksonville. I know it said it was gonna. I thought it was gonna go the complete opposite way. I thought Jacksonville was gonna whoop on them and happen the other way around. But that was just that game against Jacksonville. The Cleveland Browns are much more stacked on defense. Guys like Miles Garrett and some of the other crew that they have back there and linebacker. It's not somebody that I would throw in there. And or actually, you know what? Rodgers either. I don't know. They're gonna play Detroit. Detroit and Green Bay usually have a really good game, and the way that Rodgers played this past game, and kind of how like you and me and your friends were talking about Rodgers kind of
Yeah.
seeming like he's like forcing a trade by just, I guess, just dragging ass is what it seems like, if I can say that. Um,
I mean
how he performed, because it's not something that you expect from a player of his caliber to play the way he did. You know what I mean?
yes,
And just look
yes.
sorry.
And to your point exactly, man, and I said it earlier, from week one to week two, you really see like how these teams bounce back, how these guys are going to perform. And that is a player right now that I'm going to call in episode 3 of Selfless Little Gaming podcast for fantasy football this year. If Aaron Rodgers comes out and performs remotely close to how he did last week, I would be very hesitant on playing him. He's been very disgruntled for the past 3 years with that organization. He has been openly like vocal about how he's not happy
Yeah.
Mike McCarthy pretty much lost his job because he wasn't happy, and then they brought in a new coach. He was okay for a year. Now he's not happy again. Um,
Yeah.
so I just don't like. I don't know, man. I've always respected Aaron Rodgers, but personally, with me, I've always felt like Aaron Rodgers is a loose cannon. Like you never know what's going to happen. You never know how he's going to play week to week. He's very consistent quarterback, and I know some people are going to sit here and say this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But the guy is like he's literally a mixed bag of emotions, and he comes out and he'll slay one week and get you 50 fantasy points, and but then the next week, halfway through the like practice week, he's mad and upset at the team. Like, dude, you just threw for almost 600 yards last week. Like, what are you upset about? You know,
Yeah.
and I just don't know. Like, I've never. You could have gave me $1 million to bet with, and if somebody would have said I'd put it on Aaron Rodgers playing bad, I would have lost $1 million because I would have taken that bet. Like, there ain't no way Aaron Rodgers is playing bad week one,
Yeah. It's
opening
unfair.
season.
Yeah, I thought it was very characteristic of him to play like that.
But he had like a crazy stat too of like he's like he was like I want to say I don't know exactly what the stat was, but I want to say he was like 20-0 in like the opening season games or something like that. Like he was like the most activist winning quarterback week one still playing right now. And it's just kind of crazy that like he had that stat and then they went out and just did what they did. So,
Yeah. It just
um,
blows my mind. He didn't even score a touchdown. I would have
yeah,
bet money that he scored at least one, right? Like, how you gonna say, my bad? How you gonna say Rogers isn't gonna score a touchdown? There's no way, and that's exactly what ended up
yeah.
happening. Like, I
And
don't know. It's just crazy.
with some of these guys too, like I can't think of his name. I want to say his last name's Mitchell, the running back for the 49ers who popped off when Mossert went out. A
Hmm.
lot of guys I've seen, he's like been one of the most frequently grabbed guys off the waiver wire and stuff. I understand it. Guy has a great week one, but this is why we have this segment in our little podcast here.
It's a trap.
It is 100% a trap. Okay. Tyrod Taylor, to Jacob's point, bro, the Jaguars looked amazing in preseason, but you saw the results of winning every game in preseason compared to when it actually counts. They
Yeah.
looked awful. Okay. So I just be careful with some of those picks and week one performances. Don't get overhyped by what you see. You know, look at your matchups, like he said, going into your next week, and because teams' game plans are obviously going to change.
Yeah.
So
Always. And man, another thing that's crazy too that I just realized, and this might upset some Packers fans, some Aaron Rodgers fans, but you gotta realize yourself. How many times does a starting quarterback like Aaron Rodgers play so bad that they put in the backup? They put in Jordan Love in that game because they're like, you know what? And I wonder if it's because they were like, you know what? This isn't going to cut it, Rodgers. We're going to sit you and put Jordan Love. Or maybe Rodgers was like, you know what? I'm done for today. I'm done. Just put him in. Or, you know what I mean? If it was on his part to just say, never mind. I don't want to
well,
do this.
and like to Aaron Rodgers' point, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and this is why I feel this way. I don't know if you saw the like recap of the interview with Aaron Andrews prior to the game, but
No.
he basically talked about how when they drafted his replacement, he was like, "Okay, you clearly don't want me here. You've already got me replaced, blah blah blah." And he's been upset in the past. He's shown his frustration in the past with like Mike McCarthy and the play calling and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Players do that, okay? Like they can be vocal. Ezekiel Elliott did it with Urban Meyer, one of the best college coaches out there. Okay, some people may
Mm-hmm.
not like Urban as a person, but statistically speaking, he is one of the best college coaches to ever do it. All right.
Yeah.
And Zeke came out after the Michigan State game in 2015, I believe, and was like, "How I don't get the ball more, I don't understand." Like players are vocal about that; they're passionate about it. Okay, the way his demeanor was in that interview with Aaron Rodgers, it almost came off to me as a little kid throwing a fit,
Yeah.
and that's not like what I would want to see. It'd be okay if he was like, I just don't like the direction of our organization and where we're spending our draft picks. Like why we aren't spending our draft picks on defense or more skill based positions. I really don't feel like we needed a quarterback at the time. That would have been sitting way better with me than him being like, well, clearly they just drafted my replacement and they don't want me here anymore. It's like, bro, what? Like, yeah, they're gonna plan for the future, dude. Like, you're not gonna play till you're 80.
Yeah,
No,
not even to be Tom Brady. Yeah.
yeah, like, and I don't know, man. Like, just the way his whole vibes and demeanor are this year and how it's been in the off season. Like, I don't know. It's weird. And like some of the memes going around with it, like in his post conference when it was like I saw one where it said something like when Aaron Rodgers looks like the guy on the news who just had his car stolen. It was like something funny like that. And it's like, I mean, he kind of looks like that right now.
Looking rough. Yeah, I feel you.
So all right, man, week 2. All right, matchups. Um do you want to start the breakdown of the games or do you want me to?
Oh yeah, I can go ahead.
Yep.
I think one of the really cool games that I'm looking forward to watching and checking out. If I can, Cincinnati versus Chicago, you can get to see Joe Burrow and that offense go against Justin Fields and the Bears offense. That's going to be a nice battle of the young quarterbacks right there. Uh, I mean, it's really close. I have Cincinnati winning by a touchdown. But it could go either way. I mean, it's going to be an exciting game. I wouldn't be surprised if it's high scoring. Um, it's really going to be nice to see that match with those two young quarterbacks. You know, they're going to be facing each other as
So
hopefully as often as they can.
is Justin Fields getting a start this week?
I think Justin Fields is getting to start this week. I don't think they're going to be going
Ooh.
with Andy Dalton.
Interesting. I will say this,
Yeah.
like to that point, real quick about you talking about that game.
Hmm.
Seeing what the Rams did to the Bears secondary, if you have any of the Cincinnati like wide receivers and stuff, I'd be putting them in this week. That
Oh
secondary
yeah,
looked
for
pretty
sure. Oh
looked
yeah,
pretty
for sure.
rough. They looked
They're
pretty
going to
rough.
shine. They're going to shine absolutely. Um, I'm really also looking forward to seeing what goes on with the Raiders and Pittsburgh. They both came off really good wins. Pittsburgh's got to feel good about beating the Bills, just of how coming to the season how stacked they were. They about Josh Allen being deemed as a runner for the next MVP, and then just all the clout that came with the Bills, and they were able to shut them down and do it significantly enough to get a good win. That was really big for them. And then you got the Raiders coming off that big overtime win, and they got some swag going now with Derek Carr getting that comeback walk off touchdown, and it's going to be a high energy match. I'd be interested to see which defense gives first or which one gets the first turnover. So that's
Yeah.
going to be pretty exciting game to watch for sure. I would say if there's a team that's going to win, I would say I'd probably have Pittsburgh just because of more experience on the team, a little
I
bit
think
more
their
weapons and
defense is a little
firepower.
better. I'd lean
Yeah,
with
the
that
defense
defense.
is a little bit better. Yeah, for sure. Uh, I think we kind of already went over Houston and Cleveland. Uh, Tyler Taylor versus Baker Mayfield. I really think this is going to go one way.
Yeah.
Uh, just based on the personnel and everything. I really
I'm
don't see them pulling off an upset like that with Cleveland.
gonna look this up
Um,
real quick while you're talking because I
yeah.
feel like Odell may come back this week, but I'm gonna confirm
Mm,
that real quick. So go ahead, keep going.
yeah. New Orleans and Carolina should be a good game. They usually have a really good game. We'll see, man. I don't know. I don't think James Winston's going to be eating crab legs all season. I don't know, man. I kind of feel like that he was able to get a good write off of his defense and get a short field to work with. I mean, he only 338 yards with those 5 touchdowns, so he had a very short field to work with each time he had the football. He's not always going to get that opportunity, so I'm going to be curious to see what happens when he plays a team that's gonna have better offensive production. And I think Carolina's not too bad with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold kind of got his revenge win against the Jets. They still got Run DMC or Run DMC CMC.
Yeah.
Um, they still got him. They got some pretty good defensive players, so I think that's going to be a good game to watch for. It could go either way with that one. Minnesota and Arizona. I think we talked about it already a little bit. Arizona is probably going to be the one that comes out on top. Kyler Murray's not slowing down, especially with guys like DeAndre Hopkins out there and some of the other weapons he has. It's going to be a fun game to see. And of course, I'm rooting for my starting quarterback to put points up on the board, which I'm sure he's going to do on the ground or in the air. So that's the best part, that he has that versatility. Detroit and Green Bay, that's going to be a good game, like we're talking about.
So
Mhm.
Odell Beckham Jr. actually, as of today, has been ruled out for the contest on Sunday.
Oh, dang,
Yeah,
really?
yeah. So the coach said he's still gonna be held out Sunday's game against the Texans. Still in relation to his knee issue. They feel like he's progressing very well throughout practice and is getting back to his full reps, full speed, but want to be cautious due to the length of the season. So makes sense. Like they don't want to rush him
Yeah,
back.
it's for a long year that we still got to go. But you know what? That might be the best opportunity, like you're mentioning, for Chubb to get a really good game, because against that defense of Houston that doesn't really have any marquee players on that line, and with some decent blocking, which the Browns definitely have a good line.
They do.
I think it's going to be a good game for him to break out for sure. Him and Kareem Hunt should probably take over that game, really, with
Yep.
getting run yards on them. Um, but yeah, it sounds like a good week. I'm really looking forward to the course the Dallas Chargers game. We kind of talked about some of the stuff earlier. I think if we can make Herbert a little uncomfortable in the pocket, like he looked this past week, he didn't look too sharp. He didn't look as sharp as he usually does. With the pass rusher getting to him, I think we'll do that. If we can contain Bosa and give Dak time to operate, which I think we'll be able to do. Bosa's one guy. We're gonna have a couple of guards swing over and a couple of double teams going, and I'm sure we'll get a job done, because thankfully we still have some good pieces on the line to defend them. And then the only other big key that I would say is instrumental to winning that game. And I know this is a crazy theory, right? But if they could just make some damn field goals and extra points, you know, we might just have a chance at
Yeah.
winning the football game.
Gosh,
You
bro.
know, oh man, it just seems like if it's not one thing, it's another. It's just like it's a curse. Like everything could be going perfect, and the one thing that you don't expect to go wrong, or something like an extra point, maybe Mr. 30-yard field goal, there it is.
And like at the time of that game, like it's frustrating. And it's like, oh damn, like he missed a field goal and stuff. Like, what the heck, man? What are you doing? But then it's like as the game went on, and me and you were watching it, like we're watching it in Discord together and we're talking and stuff, and little Jacob's like yelling, screaming all these big plays, punching holes in his wall, getting excited and everything. And like I'm just thinking, like, dude, man, if he hits these field goals, like they are up at least 6 still, and it's
Yeah,
just that's the most frustrating part is at the end of the game when the results came out like it did. Brady, like regardless, he's got to go down and score. Okay, like they got to go down and score, but there's a big difference in having to go down and kick a field goal and having to go down and get a touchdown.
score a touchdown.
Yeah, there's a big difference in that. And your defense knows too, like, hey, they have to score a touchdown, so we can take a little bit of risk here and there, put some more pressure on them. Whereas we can't let them get to the 40. We can't let them get to the 30. And so I don't know. There's a lot of different variables there, but he hits those field goals, and there's no telling how that game would have went. Like that, who knows? They could have started to struggle, and Dallas could have blown the doors off them. You never know.
Yeah, for sure.
So, a couple games I like to see, and I'm interested in. One, I'm interested to see in how Zach Wilson actually responds from week 1 to week 2. The rookie for the Jets. I was actually impressed. I mean, it's the Jets. The Jets defense isn't very good. Their overall offense isn't very good.
He doesn't really have
But
any weapons.
but yeah, like he doesn't have a ton of weapons and stuff. But he actually, I think he had like 200 some yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Like a very good performance for a rookie, very first game. I was impressed. Does he have a lot of growth opportunity? 100%. Can he do better? 100%. But that organization's got to give him the tools too. They got to do something for the guy. I'm interested to see how he bounces back and how Mac Jones bounces into week 2 because he had a pretty good week 1 performance against Miami. But I'm also interested, like, to see, okay, was that a week one thing where teams aren't fully prepared for you? You're going against a bad defense now. Like, you should take that next step. So that's a game I'm interested in watching. Um, Miami Buffalo. I actually think this game could be very determining of that division right there. I think that'll give you a very good indicator of, is Buffalo still the top team in that division, or has Miami actually taken that step to be a contender now? I think New England is still going to have the ability to compete, but I think they're at least a year or two away. I think Buffalo's got a very solid team, a lot of veterans, a lot of really good players. But Miami's, like I said, first episode of the podcast, they're slowly building a monstrous team down there in Florida. And then, what was the other one I was very interested in? Oh, Indianapolis. One, their defense should have been better than what it was. Granted, you're going against Russell Wilson, who's always a MVP candidate every year. And they have very good wide receivers. They have good running backs. But your defense should have been much better than what it showed. I'm very much interested to see how their offense comes out and plays. Carson Wentz, I said it. It was either first episode or second episode. I called him a trap player. I said, don't draft him. Don't pick him up. It's a trap. I know some people took him. I know one guy took him in our league. Didn't perform well at all and everything. That's where I stand with that guy now. You never know what you're getting with him. But I am interested to see where they actually come out at against a very good Rams defense. It also wouldn't surprise me if the Rams defense put up 20 points by themselves this week. It wouldn't surprise me at all if that happened. I am extremely interested, and I'd say one of the biggest quarterbacks I'm the most interested in is Matthew Stafford. He played very well. Little Jacob blew him up. He said he thought he was going to have an excellent year. Started off the year great.
Yeah, he sure did.
I'm very interested to see how he takes that next step, because he's got a lot of weapons, and I think he's in the best spot he's been in his career, honestly. So
yeah, I mean, I could have won either way. You know, I started Kyler Murray, but I could have started Stafford and been fine just same way, because he had 321 yards and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, a really good passer rating, and I expect him to continue doing that with the protection and the guys he's got there. For
yeah,
sure. It looks like Indianapolis is 5-0 in games following a loss in 2020. So that's interesting to see if they could do that. Another crazy stat: Buffalo has won 5 straight games versus Miami, who they're playing next, and has scored 30 plus points in each game. So for 5 straight games, they've just
damn.
banked them like that. So that's gonna be
But
interesting to
bro,
see.
that Miami's got Tua, baby. They got Tua
Yeah.
now, man.
I hope we can keep up with those points, because they haven't. They oh man, that's a pretty crazy margin.
That is a crazy
Um,
margin.
says here the Steelers, or the 6 of the last 8 matchups between the Steelers and the Raiders have been decided by 3 points or fewer. That's pretty interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. All right. What do you think? All right. First off, how did your games go last year? Not last year, last week that you put your bets on? Okay, you picked 3 games. How did those go?
Well, I definitely did. I definitely didn't get that good result with the Saints and the Green Bay Packers. So I
Yeah.
definitely was betting against them. So that's one that I lost. Dallas, we barely lost, so there's that one. So it's 2 for 1, really 1 for 2.
1 for 2. I was the same. I was the same.
Yeah, really 1 for 2, because I mean, the only team that won out of that whole thing, like I thought, it was just the Rams. So that's about it.
Yeah, I had the Niners, which Jesus, bro, they about blew that. I had the Niners, the Vikings. The Vikings lost, and I actually had or not the Raiders, but the Falcons and the Eagles taking the over in that game, and they scored very little points. I think the over was like 50 some points as a combined total score for both teams, and I think the final score was like 28 points or something. So it was not what it was supposed to be at all. I think it was like literally half of what the over was. This week, man, week 2. All right, we're both 1-2.
Mm-hmm.
Who are your 3 games that you're going with, and who you're picking?
3 games, so I'm going. So I'm gonna pick it. And I'm gonna choose. I'm gonna start just choosing other games that don't have to do with the Cowboys. Of course, I'm just gonna say Dallas. There's no point in going there. But 3 games. I would say one of those games. I'll definitely take the Seahawks over the Titans.
Okay.
That's one of them. I'll take the Seahawks over the Titans. I know I did say earlier, and I still stick with it. Bengals over the Bears.
Okay.
And you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and go with what I also said earlier, and I'm gonna stick with the Steelers over the Raiders. I think that should be a good game, but I think they're gonna pull it out at the end. So hopefully we can get that going, and maybe we can get flush there instead of being like last week.
All right. I'm going to take the dog pound, the Cleveland Browns with their home game. I'm taking them over Houston. All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a little bite of the cake, man. I'm gonna go with New Orleans over Carolina. I don't want to like invest in some crab legs just yet, but like I'll dabble a little bit in some dessert first with them. That it seemed very appetizing to me. So I got Cleveland. I'm going New Orleans. And then, honestly, bro, I think I'm going to go with Kansas City over Baltimore, man. I just, with the 13 guys they got on IR and all the issues they have, I think Kansas City is going to make them extremely one dimensional and not run the football and just basically keep Lamar in the pocket and just make him beat him throwing the ball. I just don't see how that offense struggling with the Raiders offense is going to keep up with Kansas City. I just don't see it.
Yeah, and then you know what? Something crazy. Another crazy stat I found: Patrick Mahomes in his career in the month of September
Oh yeah,
is undefeated, 11-0, and he's thrown for 35 touchdowns. 35.
yeah, 35 touchdowns, no
His career's not
interceptions.
even. He
Yep.
hasn't been playing that long.
He I think he was. I saw some stat where it was like he was 6 touchdowns away and 285 yards from setting like the all-time NFL record for touchdowns, yards, in under 50 games. So like he'll probably throw 3 touchdowns this week and he'll break that record and hold that record. I think they said he'll do it in like 38 games or something like that. Like it's a stupid stat, but like yeah, I saw they actually showed that during the game that they called him Mr. September, and he had before the game started he had 32 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he was 10-0 in the month of September. And it's just like it's just crazy, man. It's a crazy stat. So, is there anything you want to wrap up with, man, before we cut this off?
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about how the NFL power rankings are absolutely ridiculous. I think they're full of it. They're
Yeah.
crazy. Like I know that Dallas didn't even crack top 10, and we win against the champs and lost by 2 points, but they don't give us the grace of even being top 10, dude. They have us like 19, something crazy.
Yeah.
19. That's the kind of respect we get.
Well, honestly, too, like
Tampa Bay.
I think with the power rankings, especially early on right now, a lot of that stuff is like based off previous year, and then they look at like week 1, like how did you do against the team that you faced. So obviously, if you lose, it's going to be a big hit. And then I kind of feel like they look at like the overall conference too, because Washington lost, the Giants lost, Cowboys lost. I think the Eagles were the only one that actually won and stuff out of that conference and everything. But yeah, I don't. People are like, well, look at these power rankings this week, and these are teams you should look out for. I'm like, bro, it's week 1. Like what?
Yeah. And to be fair, out of all the teams that any team in the NFC East played that was the worst, the Eagles got to play the worst teams.
The worst team, yes.
They played the
Yes.
Falcons, so
Yes.
I'm not saying that they can't be good, but I'm saying that as a Cowboys fan, they can't be good. But no, but really, they didn't play a good team, so their tests are definitely going to come up. I don't think we play them soon, but I don't think we play them soon. Matter of fact, I can look at the schedule.
Actually, yeah, I want to look at that too. The screen is so bright.
Actually, let me get something real quick here. 1 second.
Let's see here. Dallas Cowboys.
Nothing.
Oh, another like while we're waiting on little Jacob actually. Um, so you play the Eagles the 27th of September. So actually next week's game, week 3.
That would be really good for us to win that game because I think the following week we play the Giants, and that's the game I'm going to. So that would be nice to follow up.
That's 2 weeks after. So you got Eagles, Panthers, Giants.
Okay, yeah. Hopefully, man. I mean, hopefully the Bucks is the only game we've lost by that time.
Bro, real quick before we cut this loose, Saquon Barkley. I really, really fear for his career.
Man, what happened? I didn't really pay attention to the Giants.
I just don't think the Giants. Like I'm gonna pull it up here real quick.
Mm-hmm.
One, I don't think he's 100%. I don't. He's listed as questionable for Thursday night's game. Let me pull this up here real quick.
Really, is questionable?
Yeah, because he tore his ACL last year.
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, yeah.
But he had 10 carries for 26 yards. Was averaging 2.6 yards. His longest carry was 5 yards. I just don't see it, man. Like the offense, like we saw this last year with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones was pretty much their leading running back. Like, he was their leading rusher as a quarterback. And any team, I don't care if you are at a Pee-wee level, okay, like Pop Warner level. If your kid is the quarterback and he is leading your team rushing, your team is not going to be successful.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, no.
And don't get me wrong, man. Like, I've seen some pretty crazy athletes, like Braxton Miller. We go way back in Ohio State. Braxton Miller was a prime example of this dude could throw the ball, but he could also run the ball, and he was a dual threat quarterback. And there was times where he literally was like leading the team in rushing. But those years that he was there too, when teams figured out how to defend it, it was very easy to manage and very easy to defend. Because once you took that running option away and you made him have to throw the ball, it really showed like, yeah, his skill set's not there. Lamar Jackson, prime example too in the NFL. Dude is crazy fast. Okay, super athletic, can make anybody miss in the NFL.
Yep.
But if you take that away from him and you make him have to throw the football, you really see a huge gap in his skill set. All right. And the reason I say I fear for his overall, like, just career in the NFL, man, is because, dude, I just fear he's going to get hurt again, man. Like, guys already got a lot of miles on him from Penn State. Their offensive line is the same from last year. Doesn't look very good. And, I mean, granted, Broncos' defensive line is pretty good. But I don't think they're top tier in the NFL. Okay?
Man.
Yeah. So,
Just too. Sometimes it seems like those bigger running backs, the bigger guys, those sometimes are the guys that when they get hurt, and like,
oh yeah,
they can take more time to recover than the smaller backs. For whatever reason, it seems like the smaller backs when they get hurt, it's not the same like when a big, really huge, stocky guy like Saquon gets hurt. I kind of feel like, and I mean, I don't wish any bad on anybody. Like, yeah, he's the Giants, and I do hope the Giants lose every Sunday, but I don't hope anyone loses their career or gets permanently hurt. So when I say this, I don't mean this in a negative way, but I'm kind of afraid that the way it sounds that he might end up just being Todd Gurley, another Todd Gurley, where he's great. He was great. But once he got hurt after that, he's just not the same
Not the
anymore.
same guy.
He doesn't have the same burst.
Well, and
His
especially like
knees bothering him.
having such a traumatic injury of like
Yeah,
tearing your ACL,
yeah,
you're gonna like. And granted, he did it in the NFL. Okay,
yeah,
they have the top tier medical staff. They have the top tier training programs, rehabilitation. They can get the best
yeah,
people in the country. All right, they have the money to invest in these athletes, but it's also been shown too that when these guys have these injuries that occur and this trauma sets in, over time you're going to have your scar tissue start to build up. You're going to start to have like
yeah,
just these things set in because the structure of it is not the same of what it was. All right. And just with the lack of resources and investment in that offensive line, as a fantasy owner, there's a reason why I did not get him last year, and there's a reason why I did not get him this year because he's with the Giants. And after week one, what I saw, I mean, he's one of those guys where it's like he could have that game where he literally could bust for 180 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like he could do that. The likelihood of that happening is maybe 3 games this year. So it's like,
out
are
of
you?
16, out of the 16 games, right?
Yeah,
They have left
yeah.
maybe 2, maybe 1.
It's like, are you banking on him busting out and having awesome games a quarter of your fantasy season? Like, go ahead, bro. Like that, you do you, but I'm not doing that. You know?
Yeah. And if I'm right, when it comes to injuries, like if you break a bone, right? You break a bone, it gets mended back, and usually it heals, and it can heal back stronger than it was before, even because of the way that bones work. But when you talk about like muscle tissue, like your ligaments, like you're saying, you tear
Yeah,
it once, you tear it once, yeah, it heals, but it never is like how it was before.
yeah.
And if you tear it again, yeah, you can repair it, but sometimes, like running back Curtis Martin from the Jets, old school guy, is one of my favorite running backs growing up. Well, one point, he told everybody how his knee injuries got so bad that he didn't even have ligaments anymore. It was just bone running on bone because it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
feel
like no
the same.
cartilage and stuff. Yeah,
It's not strong enough, like you said. You just get the scar tissue, and it kind of sounds like maybe like you said, Barkley just had his miles run on him already.
yeah.
And being running back is tough, especially as much as they make him run the ball and his running style, like Adrian Peterson's running style. He's downhill, head first. He's a big guy. That's a tough way to play football. For a
Honestly,
long time.
I think Adrian Peterson. Some people hold these younger guys like a
Yeah,
Saquon Barkley, a Todd Gurley, people like that. They kind of like look at them because these guys have that capability, like Adrian Peterson, and then they sustain an injury like they did, and it's like, oh well, next year they can bounce back and they can perform. Look at Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson is an absolute freak of nature, and
yeah,
like I would feel bad for comparing anybody else to that dude because that dude needs to have his like blood stored up in a vial, and we need to make clones of that guy and just have a whole NFL
the
team.
ultimate players, ultimate.
He's insane. And like if you've ever
Yeah,
if actually I'm gonna say this, if you guys have never seen one of his workout videos, get on YouTube and just type in Adrian Peterson workout routine, and you're gonna sweat watching it, bro. It's insane what this guy does, especially for how big of an athlete he is. And even last
yeah,
year, like him still being in the NFL at his age and with how many miles he has on him, and he was productive. Like
yeah.
Todd Gurley is nowhere near his age, and he can't produce what he's able to do still. You know,
Nope.
so I don't know. That's just one thing I wanted to say real quick before we like start to wrap it up. Is if you have Saquon Barkley, I would try to look early on to do a trade, maybe a 2-for-1, where you can
Yeah,
maybe get like an RB2, a wide receiver 2, maybe a tight end 1. And I don't know, I'd kind of get him out of there because, and it depends on your team situation, obviously, when we say this. But man, I do not see the fantasy value there this year at all. I don't see it.
yeah. The Giants are still the Giants. Sorry, Giants fans.
Still the Giants. They are a giant disappointment. I'm gonna go ahead and say that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, I'm interested in a week 2 scenarios here. Definitely interested in some of these matchups and the overall outcome of how some of these teams bounce back. Um, yeah, man. Like, what time is the Dallas game on Sunday?
That one is gonna be. It's gonna be the afternoon game. Yeah, afternoon game, 3:15.
Okay, so it's like 4:15 my time then.
Yeah, 4:15 your time. Man,
You want to watch that game together?
Yeah, we can. I
Yeah.
really want us to win this one, man, because the last few times we've played the Chargers, we haven't been so lucky. We've lost like the last 3 out of 4 games against them regular season. So
Against the Chargers, really?
yeah, believe it or not, with Philip Rivers Chargers, you know what
Oh yeah. I mean, bro, you can't beat a guy that's got 85 kids, dude. Like,
I mean? You gotta
Jesus.
feed them all. There's no way he's losing.
God bless, bro. I
Hey
mean,
man, he's got the bankroll and he's got the dedication to parent a whole basketball team. That's hey, kudos to him.
bro, not to change like the subject, but freaking I saw somebody, I think it was either this year's Madden or last year's Madden. Their whole roster was called the Rivers. And they literally made Philip Rivers and his whole entire family, like all the kids, everybody out of position, and they had 11 people on offense. And I was just like, that's really bad, but that's also like really funny. Like, it's really funny.
Gosh. I remember the first time I found out that he had that many kids. It was like it was after the game, and then I just see like a bunch of kids run up to him and give him a hug. I'm like, oh, that's cool. You know, he's hanging out with the fans, and he's.
I thought it was like the Big Brother program or something, bro. Like he's like being like a foster dad or something. Like, nope, wife's had 9 kids.
Yeah, I think he's coaching now.
Is he really?
If I'm correct, he's coaching football. I think
pulled
he's coaching
up.
high school football.
I could see him doing that. That Tipsy Legend, what's up, bro? How you doing, man? One of our legendary friends that's always drunk is in the chat here with us. Hope you're doing well, bro. I imagine you're at work. So, but yeah, guys. Week 3 of the podcast underway. We're done. Hope you guys have a positive week 2 outcome in your fantasy football leagues. I appreciate y'all tuning in, listening. If you guys can too, I'm Selfless Gaming as well, selfless_gaming. You can find me on Twitter, find me on TikTok, Instagram. If you guys are listening to this, hit us up on one of those social media platforms and stuff. Give us some feedback on what you like about the episodes, what you would like us to talk more about. It's not all going to be about fantasy football. We're going to dive into UFC and other sports as well. Anything, but just kind of let us know like what you would like to hear, or if you have questions. Like, hey, I'm 0-2 this week. What do you think I should do? These are my people. We'll talk about it. Everything. We'll try to help you all out. So, once again, I'm Selfless Gaming. Little Jacob, take us out, brother.
Yeah, guys, definitely give us the feedback. We're definitely looking forward to once there's like some more interesting UFC fight stuff coming up, and then it's the NBA is going to start up again. That's going to be a really exciting time to talk about all the basketball coming. So a lot more to come, especially for week 3. So yeah, let us know if you have any feedback. Little Jacob. You can also find me on TikTok, Twitter, Twitch, and most of my. We also have a Discord too, which you can get the links from those social medias as well. And yeah, me and Pat are having a good time doing this. So we're definitely gonna be doing a lot more of this and finding more content to talk about, and probably some games and game stuff in the future state of gaming and some other things I think we were talking about too.
Oh yeah.
Some of you guys might be interested in it to listen to as well. So yeah, guys, I hope everyone has a good night. Good luck to you and your teams, and good luck Sunday. Unless you're the Chargers, because I can't wish you any luck for that one. But yeah, guys, good luck, and I hope everyone has a good evening. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good night. Peace.